Okay, we may have to just step out and come back in. We'll be right back because no sound. You can hear me now? Oh, she can hear me now. Okay. Communication is everything. So yesterday, thank you, Jesus, for reminding me I'm a son of God. Not a small thing. Oh my gosh, so much joy comes when we follow that Holy Spirit once we've stopped saying no to ourselves and step really together and how we support each other, like where the course just is so alive within. And he's been reminding me, we'll publish this little video that has the little diagram of how desires are like, they're like a little, we created like a little case, a little bubble, and seems like a thick bubble through our desire to protect ourselves from seeing that we're everything, which is really impossible because we can look in a second. Okay, is the light here? Is there any limitation here? No. And he's been reminding me about how these thoughts of God's of the lesson. So we're like in the core almost of a bubble. Like, I don't want to see you, God. I want to hear you, God. I don't want to speak you, God. Like inside of that, it's like a deep dive into like a bubble. And we're surrounded by light. Everything's infinite light. It's impossible. You can ask him, Jesus, can it be anything other than light? No. So we got our heads down, and whenever you're looking in toward perception, that's the really helpfulness, this little diagram you'll see, because it's like a little bubble surrounded by light. Whenever you were focusing, you're going to be fearful. Ask Jesus. So when I'm focusing on the core of perception, into perception like this, that means I'm not speaking, I'm not hearing you, I'm not speaking you. I'm not listening for your voice, and I'm not following because I'm diving into the delusion. It's the delusion dive. I'm diving into the core of the illusion. And so with these lessons and our willingness to look outside of the delusion toward infinite, toward light, the Holy Spirit, with each lesson, it's like little breadcrumbs out. Each lesson points toward the light that's outside the bubble until we see the bubble doesn't even exist. But we just like being, you can ask him, Jesus, do I like being in perception and thoughts and being embroiled in that? I mean, you laugh when you hear it because it's true. It's honesty of God. So each lesson points out of that little inside, not wanting to see the truth, back out to the truth of identity. And so they're like little breadcrumbs. Look out here. No, it's not in there. Look out here. It's like the puppies, I said, redirecting their focus instead of gnawing on our hand. No, just look this way. Each lesson is going, no, you're bigger than the idea you have of yourself. So thank you, Jesus, for another lesson. And certainly being a son of God is, well, it's the whole thing. I mean, that was lesson 40. So that's like a little over a month into all the lessons. And he comes in with, God goes with me wherever I go. This one will take your breath away because it's beyond all breath. And so we turn our faces instead of the only difference is just instead of turning our face inward toward that touch and feeling and all those things, and I'm this little and everything's going to get me. And those layers and layers, the layer of perception. I perceive that this is something other than me, this phone. And he leads us to start seeing, wait a minute, I can see this in wholeness. It's not apart from me. And through each lesson, right in the beginning. And he's saying, okay, now notice how you're in the bubble. He's having us notice the thoughts that are coming in the bubble, the bees. Bzz. But you're not the bees. And he says, look toward me, look toward infinite. So it's like it's turning our face into perception, wanting to be, insisting, no, God, there's no light, there's no light. And then with the lessons start to turn, it's like a turn. That's why it's a decision to turn back to see what's true. And as we turn back, he's able to lead us out. You go, wait a minute, this isn't true, all these thoughts in this bubble and this feeling and these bees swarming. What if I'm giving all energetic power into this dream? Like, what if it's me? It's the play of, not as a person, it's a play of consciousness. But as long as we're faced away from the light is everything. We're faced away from God goes with me everywhere I go, wherever I go. So he says, okay, now just turn your focus toward me. Turn your focus toward me so I can show you with each miracle, it dissolves the bees, the wanting of the bees, the bee stings in there. Your head's down. It's like an ostrich. You're sticking your head in the ground going, I don't want to see that I'm light. And because of that play, we don't remember. We've made a decision not to remember the light, not to remember totality. So now he's saying, okay, he's going to use that play in consciousness of decision to go, wait, I can decide differently. I can choose a miracle, ask him which ones. So the perception's deep. It's like looking in, just a perception. I'm going to hold on to it. You can feel that holding. And he's helping us loosen. And right above, like there's an outer ring. There's perception. I'm holding on. I'm diving into the dream. You could think of it that way. And then go back and just notice perception comes from emotion. Emotion's trying to dive into the dream. It's trying to dive in there. So we back out a little bit to thoughts. He's going, then just notice how your thoughts are getting you to dive into the delusion, to move that energetic movement into insisting the delusion's all there is. So we back out a little. He's going, now just back out a little more with me, because if you're in perception, emotions and thoughts and beliefs and storyline, see that part of the core, then you're going to feel like you're in hell. Okay. That's where hell is, but you're pretending inside there you're insisting that's heaven. That's the confusion. He's been talking about that the last couple of lessons and reminding us. It's like, okay, you're looking this way now, turn out, look this way. Okay, because if you're looking with the perspective of the ego within that thought system, you will be in fear and guilt. You'll be choosing to keep guilt. See, we don't see that when we don't follow him, we're choosing to keep guilt alive in the core there. We're choosing to stay inside the deepest part of that bubble of a dream. So now he's saying, okay, and that he knows that in that dreaming, there's a lot of fear. See, whenever we're this way, focused in toward perception, when we think of God, it will always be fearful. So what he says is we need to start, as soon as we start seeing, so the outermost ring that's trying to protect that bubble of delusion is desire. It's on the outermost rung there, if you could look at it that way. So it's infinite light, and there's a pretend little bubble that we've dove into through desire. I desire all this experience. So now he's saying, okay, I'm going to bring you, if you ask me, I will show you where the desire is that's generating the dive. I'll show you where that is. And so you can release on the outermost dissolution to light. You see, you don't have to play in all that stuff in the middle and all that stuff. You come to the desire for the experience and admit it out there, honesty of God. So he says, look with me, infinite light, holy instant. Is anything afraid in the light? Can we find it? So just know as soon as fear arises, it's a desired experience to dive into the dream. So it's just a signal. It's nothing other than a signal that you're going the wrong direction. You're diving into the dream. So all you have to do is turn your face out to him. Help me, Jesus. See, he's going to, no, you're pointing, your face is pointing away from the light. It's like this. You're pointing toward the light. Here's the light. And then, oh, it's dark over here. The world is happening. Yes, just turn your face to the light. It's that simple. Remember that there's light. Check in, do the light check. Come to me. and then follow his instructions, because he'll show where the delusion is in the mind. And then it dissolves that outer layer and the miracle. Remember, we talked about David's levels of mind. If you notice what he's put, it's just the same thing. He just put core in the middle. He put desire, and that the miracle goes to desire. All this is focusing on the light and showing desire, how desire is trying to hold the bubble in, that our desire to dive into the middle, into sensory experience. So the miracle's in the same place. It's always at the level of desire. It's the willingness to see the desire for the experience. So for me, it's just helpful to see how it's to look outward toward the Holy Spirit, out of the dream, and be directed by Jesus, who can see the whole picture of where we are in the dive. When we're in it, we can't see it. So again, fear is just a signal that we're looking in the wrong direction. And we've gone too deep. He's saying, come with me, because we have the power. We're infinite being. So he's saying, come with me. You don't have to spend a lot of time in that middle zone of trying to figure it out and thoughts and feelings and emotions. It's helpful in the lessons to start seeing the play of consciousness. Oh, this is getting curious. Let me just see if what Jesus is saying here is true. We just kind of look. Because wouldn't that be a good thing for all of us to just celebrate together? God goes with me wherever I go. But as soon as we're facing in, as soon as we follow desires in to tuck into the core of sensory experience down there, we'll feel alone. See, it's a little bubble to feel alone and separate. The dive into delusion. The energetic investment of coming into delusion. And so, and it's like he talks about the ring of fire, because we made it a ring of fire for the desired experience of trying to walk through that to get out. Ask him, Jesus, is there a desire for an experience of hell trying to get out of heaven? See, to get to heaven. That's trying to go through that ring of fire. But you can only release to the light. See, it's not our function. Our function is to be willing to look toward the light and then look at the whole picture of that bubble from the light's perspective, from infinite perspective. See, when you look from infinite perspective, see that infinite light doesn't have a problem. It's not fearing God. It doesn't have a story about God, what God is. The only place that has a story about God is going to be inside that bubble of delusion. So stories and thoughts and feelings are all in the bubble. And then they're powered by the outermost ring, which is desire to keep that experience going in the bubble and seal off. It's like trying to create a sealed chamber going, no, sorry, no light for me. When it's surrounded by light everywhere. and it permeates. Bubble can't escape it because we can recognize that we're light immediately. This light here. Today's idea will eventually overcome completely. I like that. He doesn't use partially. He doesn't use 98%. He doesn't use 99.9%. He uses very specific words. You can start to notice that in the course. Completely. The sense of loneliness and abandonment, all the separated ones experience. So we can look again like this bubble. Here's the bubble. It's the desire to dive into sensory experience and have an experience of loneliness and abandonment. You can ask them. So it's the dive through desire into the bubble of delusion, the desire for an experience of loneliness. You can hear them. Yes. Is the dive into the bubble of delusion, desire for an experience of abandonment. All the ones that seemingly perceive that they're separated or having they're buying into desire. The energetic investment are going into that bubble rather than looking outside of it to say, wait a minute, there's abandonment's impossible because I'm everything. What would you need, you see, to abandon, you need something to abandon or be abandoned. See how you need two to be abandoned. There's one being abandoned from another, but in the perspective of light, where's something abandonable? So, yet we're fighting Jesus tooth and nail to dive into that core, into the core of into perception, to into our little fiefdom world down in there. Don't take all this away from me, Jesus. It's hilarious. Depression is an inevitable consequence of separation. So it's a signal. Let these things become a signal. I feel depressed. You can take that sentence and then go, I desire an experience of depression. Jesus, do I desire an experience of depression? He says, yes, okay. Can release to a miracle? He might say, not yet. You need to look at something because you don't want the miracle. So you can ask him, Jesus, do I not want a miracle on this? He'll tell you directly. Okay, so he even has to help you. We've laughed about this. He says, you can look at it this way, the pre-miracle just to look where you don't want a miracle. Help me. But he knows the willingness is there. You see, the Spirit doesn't ever force us to do anything, but it will help us see where, you know, we're toe dipping divinity, where we're really hanging on to that outer rim, like the life depends on it. No, it's all death in there. Life is everything. Totality. Your life. Ask Jesus, am I life? He'll never tell you no on that. Your life itself. But because the play of the dive into the delusion dive, poof, I'm in the delusion. It animates little characters and says, okay, that's life. And then when the body goes, okay, it's over, dead. We have to start really seeing the play, you know, together with Jesus, because then it's hilarious. Like we're just laughing at these circles, just laughing so hard because you start to see, oh, I do. Oh, And the beauty of it, like the joy of it, is how you see how valuable each being is that comes to that. They're so valuable. Whatever's coming up, you start just receiving it in a whole new way. Whereas before I could see like that ping off of anything that was said, you know, I'd go back. What happens is someone says something and then we dive deeper into our little file cabinet of hell in there to compare it. We're looking inside here. And Jesus going, no, let me interpret. If somebody speaks, okay, Jesus, what's your interpretation? You see? Because they could be saying something directly from him. And because of that habit of trying to dive in deep and look for error, see, I look for error, we won't hear it. Like the most precious gifts, you start really listening. You ask him, do I need to hear this? And he'll tell you yes or no. He might tell you no sometimes, and you listen to him. Marguerite was talking about that, someone seemingly talking and all this activity going on. And, there's this idea of rudeness. It's like, no, there's godness. So that's why we call it, again, cease to denyment. We're not looking for enlightenment because we'd be looking for something that's already here. It's just ceasing to deny what's already here. Then it's simple. It's like, okay, just time to stop saying no. Depression is an inevitable consequence of separation, the desire to experience being separated. So our anxiety, worry, a deep sense of helplessness, misery, suffering, and intense fear of loss. So we'll just go with each one and have that direct experience so we know. Jesus is anxiety caused by the desire to experience it. I mean, I could see that. Someone came up to me a number of years ago, about 20 years ago, and they said, you just have some kind of anxiety. And it was like immediately, if defenses were up, like, what the hell are you, it was just immediately defense and arguing. That's a symptom of the world. But now I know if someone's, the reflection, I can go to Jesus. Does this still play in consciousness for me to look at with you? And if he says no, okay. Is worry a desired experience in consciousness a play? You can hear the yes, yes. Worry is, Jesus, is there a desire to experience worry below my level of awareness? Just checking in. And then you can clear it, join with the mighty. Just go, oh, I want to really look at this one together. And they'll really appreciate it. You start to see this, man, that joining snap. It's like you're out there. Sometimes you don't know what it is, and that's best. Because I could see in the play of consciousness, I'd want to go out and work it myself. But you really be attentive to Jesus. Is this something to work with you? Because sometimes it's a play of running, not to really look. I'll go, off by myself because it's a desire to be alone. It's still, it's subtle. Like we don't always see that play because we don't want to see that is actually going deeper in the dream. But when you see it, it's gold. And when you're willing to say no, see, the no goes out toward God. No, I'm not going to play in this little kerfuffle in here. And you got to say it. And Jesus says, yes, a lot. Say no to that. And yes to infinite. Because it's like you feel like you're being a vacuum cleaner pulled in to hell, but pretending like it's heaven inside this little world of perception. But then you'll start to notice, like Lori's talking about it, and you could feel it in yourself, like it's a different pull. It's a pull out toward wholeness, the tractor beam of God. You're already in it, but that's why it hurts so much, because we're just trying to fight that God tractor beam to stay out. I'm hanging on. I don't want to be pulled to the light. It's a great, see, in the Star Trek video, Remember Me. And Laverne was talking about it. I didn't get it at all, but you'll see it where the light's calling her and trying to pull her in at first. And she's just hanging on to chairs and I don't want to go, salvation. She thinks salvation is hanging on to that chair. Meanwhile, she's seeing that the enterprise that she's in is disappearing. The delusion's disappearing, but she's hanging on to the captain. No, don't pull me in. And then finally at the end, what does she have to do? She turns around, she gets it, and she turns around and she dives into the light. That's the choice, to dive into the light rather than into deeper in the delusion and heads down into there. He's making it so simple for us. I will show you directly where the miracles are needed. And then you don't have to be in all that, sort out each little belief, and because he's given them all to us in the course. I keep asking him, I've never gotten a different answer. Jesus, are they all in A Course in Miracles, all the beliefs and desires? I can hear him, yes. So with the chapter 20 training, as we've been talking about, because I asked them, are they all? No, there's more in the course. But the thing about it is chapter 20 is such a concentration. You'll develop such a strong relationship with him that no matter what comes up, you know who to go to. And the listening will become so acute because it clears out all that chaff of not wanting to listen to him. It builds that, it's like a fireside chat with him every day. That's what lesson 20 is. And the light circles. You start to hear the level of, and the speed at which the correction, and we can hear his voice. We don't have to wait days or go into deep prayer. I mean, sometimes, as I've said, he won't tell you the answer to something you want to know. Like if it's for you to know something about a future. He's what's most helpful, like not telling me the movies till 5 minutes before or something, because it's good to me to be in trust that it's going to be cared for. And in general, questions about who I am, that's an immediate answer. There's no hanging around and wait, oh, Jesus, You can ask him now, Jesus, does God go with me everywhere I go? And we can all hear him because we can hear Jesus. Now we can say, okay, Jesus, can you show me where my doubt thoughts, where I'm denying, I have a desire to deny that God goes with me everywhere I go? Do I have a desire to not feel like God goes with me? Okay, can I ask for a miracle on that? Might need a triple miracle. You can be playful with it, because it's not, he doesn't want us to make this, that's part of the play in consciousness to make it all so serious. Okay, so a deep sense of helplessness. So Jesus, am I choosing to dive whenever I'm choosing helplessness, which I am if I'm not following, by the way. If we're not following, we're choosing helplessness. Ask him. When I'm not following you, I'm choosing to be helpless. Is misery a desired experience? Jesus. Do I have a desire to experience misery below my level of awareness? And he's reminding me, okay, so it may arise, and then you can use the lesson. God goes with me wherever I go. See how these higher order thoughts, when we're in misery, it changes the focus of consciousness on the memory to God. That's the light training. Look toward God in everything. Okay, is there any desire for experience of suffering? Is that desire to experience Jesus when it appears? Intense fear of loss. Is that a desired experience in consciousness? Do I have a desire to experience loss intensely? And you go with each of these until he says, no, that's that energetic desire has been washed out. And you just keep checking in with them. The separated ones have invented many cures for what they believe to be the ills of the world. Basically, that's all a deeper dive into perception, into the core, away from the light. You can call it that. It's a movement away from the light. That's why he's showing it in reverse, because he's showing how it's a dive away from seeing that there's light. But the one thing they do not do is to question the reality of the problem. So that's what he's saying. Instead of diving into the world, we go, is this true? Is this true that the light's not here? That's all forgiveness is. It's just willingness to ask the question, is what I'm experiencing now true? But the one thing they do not do is to question the reality of the problem. And so this is basically constantly questioning whether these problems and these perceptions, problems is a perception of a problem, is true down in the deep. Or can I look out there and see my desire for the experience of a problem with Jesus and dissolve this dive, the beehive? I'm sticking my head inside of a beehive and wondering, why am I getting stung? It's like, see, it's heads down because it's a desire for an experience to be stung rather than, oh, pick our heads up and look around and see what's true. See infinite. Yet its effects cannot be cured because the problem is not real. He's reminding me, trust would settle every problem now. The trust that we're more than the idea that we think we are, all that energetic investment in no to God. I'm going to be alone, that contraction. So he can't make our problems real. He's not going to, he'll never tell you. Ask him, Jesus, are you ever going to tell me my problems are real? He just can only show us that there are no problems whatsoever. Jesus, though, am I kind of addicted to problems? He says that's the play of consciousness, to be addicted to it. It's a little manufacturing plant in there. See how it's inside that it likes making a little problem and then it's trying to solve it with another thought and playing in there. If I just thought something different, if something different happened, it's in there that little thought knot. But wait a minute, here's a solution over here. It loves hunting for solutions, which is how many crime dramas do we have to watch, really, to recognize that how much consciousness loves crime and punishment and finding the one who did it in there. But now it's a whole new way looking. Now we look with Jesus to see no crime's ever been committed. Infinite light is unaware of a crime. Crime clueless. That's, I mean, you can enjoy it and watch the mystery on the TV because we like it, you know. Consciousness loves that. That's why he has us watch movies, because he knows we're highly attractive to the big fat movie that's inside the bubble. But it's a great opportunity, these movies, for his interpretation. The idea for today has the power to end all this foolishness forever. Okay, Jesus, is all this desire foolishness? Is this bubbleness a bunch of foolishness, or do I take it seriously? He's saying, laugh with your brother on it. In true joining, you will laugh. And foolishness it is, despite the serious and tragic forms it may take. Let's just ask him. This is fun. Okay, Jesus. Do I like serious and tragic forms? He says, yes, you can laugh. Are they true? Deep within you is everything that is perfect, ready to radiate through you and out into the world. It will cure all sorrow and pain and fear and loss because it will heal the mind that thought these things were real. and suffered out of its allegiance to them. You see that with how the consciousness works, it likes that little bubble, and then it casts out a little fishing line in there to find the problem so it can pull it out and play with it. Yet light is inside. That inside light is always. So when you look at David's diagram, see they both serve their purposes. You can look at David's diagram and see how Jesus is bringing us all the way down to the core, the desire to say no. And stop popping out a world like that. So go into the desire and say, I'm not engaging. Remember, it's always about what's most helpful in this moment, and Jesus is always giving what's most helpful. It will cure all sorrow and pain and fear and loss because it will heal the mind that thought these things were real and suffered out of its allegiance to them. Jesus, do I have a desire, an allegiance to fear and loss? Can that be released through a miracle? Yes. Am I willing? Yes. You can never be deprived of your perfect holiness because its source goes with you wherever you go. So we do the light test everywhere we go. Why not? Because of the conceptual idea, consciousness loves concepts. So it's goes in, it's going to play in the field of perception and littleness inside that little tiny middle of the bubble. It's going to play in there, and it's going to make God into a little character with a beard and a list. He's checking it twice. We have the God that's elf on the shelf. Elf on the shelf sees if you're naughty or nice for Christmas, and you're going to get good presents if you've been good. And you get nothing. You get rocks if you're bad. That's why Linda had to send us over here just to remind us. She sent us see Jesus. We have Jesus on the shelf over there. See little Jesus sitting on the shelf. Well, we love that little Jesus sitting on the shelf because he's reminding us to use his interpretation to see no error. Thank you, Linda. We love you for that little Jesus reminder on the shelf. You can never be deprived of your perfect holiness because its source goes with you wherever you go. So again, that's all these lessons are. Light check all day long. Every 10 minutes, he's saying, check in on the light. My whole perfect holiness all day. So instead of checking in to prove darkness, we're checking in with the truth. Hello, Jesus. You can never suffer because the source of all joy goes with you wherever you go. And again, here's his absolute, the words of the absolute. You can never suffer. So just so we're clear, Jesus, whenever I'm suffering, I'm desiring to deny myself joy. It's humbling. So Jesus, once again, just to confirm, in case am I doing this all myself to pretend that I'm not God? He says, and you can laugh about it because you see it's not possible. If you're doing the light check regularly, and he's saying often, and seeing that there's only infinite light here, and it's benevolent, it's not doing anything to you, it doesn't have a big stick to smack you around. You'll see that you're sticking your head in the beehive of the bubble and enjoying it and pretending like you don't enjoy it. You can ask him, do I enjoy that, Jesus? Then he can laugh when he says, yes, okay, I admit it. I really like the bees and not only that, can I say this, Jesus? Yes, you're putting honey on your face, That's how much we really like it. And then we go, oh, this is terrible. I'm getting the tar stung out of me by bees. Why is that? because part of the illusion is not to remember the part where the honey went on and the head went in. You know? And speaking of honey, Muji has this great saying, because beings he'd talk about, you like the taste of the honey, you don't want to be the honey. You like the taste, little tiny taste of love, but you don't want to be it. Speaking of honey, you can ask Jesus, Jesus, do I like love in little tiny, teeny tiny, like, we give the dogs that little tiny piece of cheese. It's about this big, and you'll take the little tiny scraps without accepting that you're it. We're hilarious. Okay. And I just heard, okay, and so we're doing it all for entertainment. And he says, yes. Well, you can hear him too. But you forgot that you were looking for entertainment. You forgot about let your heart be light. If not, it's not identity. We're wearing, the cone of the beehive. He's like, take it off and give it to me. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. You can never be alone, because the source of all life goes with you wherever you go. So we do the light test. That's what the lessons are. They're the light test all day long. Is the light here? Yeah, it is funny. Does the light know any problems? No. Is the light limited or infinite? Infinite. Okay. Does the light change? Look in there, check it out. So we have a little visit with the light and cease to visit with hell all day. And see where we're trying to take the hell visit. Nothing can destroy your peace of mind, because God goes with you wherever you go. We understand that you do not believe all this. So might as well ask. No. Might as well hear the honesty of God in this one. Okay, Jesus, do I not believe God goes with me wherever I go? Do I believe God goes with me wherever I go? See, it's a happy day when you get the yes, but don't bypass that too soon. Double, triple check, because these little, the little rat dive down in there likes to hide in the little pockets of hell that we think are heaven in there. Jesus, will you show me? So we can't trick ourselves. We say, Jesus, can you show me where I might still have beliefs that God does not go with me wherever I go? And then he'll just work you down there to release the desire to feel like God. So Jesus, if I don't feel that God goes with me everywhere I go, is that a desire to feel like he's not with me? Even though he's with me? And then you get the yes. Then we can laugh. Okay. We understand that you do not believe all this. How could you, when the truth is buried, hidden deep within, under the heavy cloud of insane thoughts? See the beehive? Zzz. So all we can hear. Bzzz. Jesus, I can't hear you, because we're calling the bees over. We've laid out the honey for them to come. Jesus is offering a whole different kind of honey. The honey of happiness. The heavy cloud of insane thoughts, dense and obscuring, yet representing all you see. Today, we will make our first real attempt to get past this dark and heavy cloud and go through it to the light beyond. Ta-da-da, outside the bubble to the light. Let's all go. Hold hands, everybody. We're diving into the light rather than into hell. There will be only one long practice period today. In the morning, as soon as you get up, if possible, sit quietly for some 3 to 5 minutes with your eyes closed. And so I'm asking Jesus, if we didn't do it yet this morning, can we do it now? Yes. Since it's a little kiss on the forehead. Okay, at the beginning of the practice period, repeat today's idea very slowly. Then make no effort to think of anything. I just asked him, so Jesus, is it effort to think? Hear what he says. Yes. Thinking is effort. All the effort is in thinking. Wow. Okay. Try instead to get a sense of turning inward past all the idle thoughts of the world. Try to enter very deeply into your own mind, keeping it clear of any thoughts that might divert your attention. So he's clearly saying, we can ask him, Jesus, do we have the power to keep our minds clear of any diverting thoughts? Oh, hear what he says. Yes. From time to time, you may repeat the idea if you find it helpful, but most of all, try to sink down and inward away from the world and all the foolish thoughts of the world. You're trying to reach past all these things. You're trying to leave appearances and approach reality. It is quite possible to reach God. Thank you, Jesus. In fact, it's very easy because it is the most natural thing in the world. You might even say it's the only natural thing in the world. Jesus. Is reaching God the most natural thing in the world? And here is the answer. See, it's all that kerfuffling that's unnatural. The way will open if you believe that it is possible. This exercise can bring very startling results even the first time it is attempted, and sooner or later it is always successful. We will go into more detail about this kind of practice as we go along, but it will never fail completely, and instant success is possible. See the instant success? See that light's here. Ask Jesus, is this what we're just noticing, that light is here, infinite? Throughout today, use today's idea often, repeating it very slowly, preferably with eyes closed. Think of what you are saying, what the words mean. Concentrate on the holiness that they imply about you, on the unfailing companionship that is yours. Unfailing companionship. Is that beautiful? On the complete protection that surrounds you. You can indeed afford to laugh at fear thoughts, remembering that God goes with you wherever you go. Oh, that sounds really good. How about 5 minutes? 5 minutes for God this morning. 5 minutes to go to heaven. I think we have that kind of time. 5 minutes. Okay. So I'll just repeat the instruction. At the beginning of the practice period, repeat today's I do very slowly. God goes with me wherever I go. Make no effort to think of anything. Try instead to get a sense of turning inward past all the idle thoughts of the world. Try to enter very deeply into your own mind, keeping it clear of any thoughts that might divert your attention. Okay, Jesus, here we go. God goes with me wherever I go. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, my brothers, for being the symbol of holiness within. And we'd like to ask Lori if she would come and sing for us, sing some holiness in our hearts.
This is called Let Your Heart Be Light. Beyond the body, beyond the sun and stars, beyond everything you see, and yet familiar is an arc of golden light that stretches out into a great and widening circle. Beyond the body, beyond the sun and stars, beyond everything you see, and yet familiar is an arc of golden light that stretches out into a great and widening circle. Let your heart be light. Let your heart be light. Let your heart be light.
Thank you for joining us again today. We love you all. From San Juan, Kosala, the Mighties.